Hello, today in this video I'm going to talk about depression and my experience with it while you watch me build the pharmacy of my city. I was born in a below average income family. I can say that we were actually poor. That's always been a problem for me because there have been times where there wasn't anything to eat even. That maybe also contributed to my depression. My parents were always stressed. So my life's never been easy. I've always been the quiet kid in school. I struggled to make friends and be social while everybody around was. I was always anxious and socially awkward. But now it's different because I don't care anymore. But then I cared, and it was a really big problem for me. Also, watching a lot of the other kids having phones and new clothes and having just money for school, and knowing that I didn't have that was awful when I was a small child. I didn't understand the world that much. But it was depressing for a child to not have what the other kids have and to be asked, why don't you have that? Why don't you have that? And as I said, I have always felt depressed in my life, but it started to spiral down when my grandma passed in 2019. She basically took care of me. She was my closest and my favorite person in the world. When she passed, I it changed my life completely. And then I started to wanting to cancel my life subscription. Let's say it that way. And I was thinking about it every day. That continued for around, let's say, 2 or 3 years, I guess. Around 2021 or 2022, I said to myself that something has to change because I can't live like that. I was listening to a lot of sad music. I was watching a lot of true crime videos and movies, scrolling a lot on social media, etc. I started catching myself thinking about something that makes me sad. I started to incorporate this tactic and I felt like it helped me. It definitely did help and I felt a lot better. I started purposely shifting my focus on things that I like and the things that I can change in my life. And it was hard. It was like a mental exercise and you always have to have control on yourself and what you focus on. And you shouldn't let yourself indulge in the sadness and regret because when you've been depressed for a long time, it becomes like a habit and it becomes like thing that you're addicted to, which is really weird to say that you're addicted to being sad, but depression really makes you feel that way. But the thing is that although you shouldn't let yourself indulge in being sad, you shouldn't also ignore your feelings because that's the main reason of depression, ignoring your feelings and suppressing them. So you have to find the balance between the two. My plan was like, first, when you're outside or inside or wherever you are, you have to be always aware of what you're thinking. And it was really hard. I know it may sound easy, but when you're depressed, it's the hardest thing. First, you have to catch yourself thinking about the bad thing. You have to acknowledge that you're thinking about it. Then, the second thing is you have to start analyzing why it makes you feel bad. Why are you sad? For example, like with my grandma passing, why do I feel sad about it? Well, because she was a really close person to me, because she always took care of me and she loved me and I loved her, and I'll never see her again and I miss her. Then the third thing is to ask yourself if you feel guilty about this thing. For example, I felt guilty that at the end I was focused on school, I was living with my parents, and I couldn't spend a lot of time with her, and that was my biggest regret. So after you acknowledge what you regret and you're thinking about maybe I should have done that, I could have done something else to change the outcome, well, you can't. You have to tell yourself that there's nothing you could have done different. Everybody makes mistakes and they're a blessing in disguise. We become smarter and better people because of them. So ask yourself what you can learn from that mistake instead of saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have done that, because you're only digging in the past. And nobody was born taught how to live life. And mistakes are what teaches us to be a better person, to essentially live. Because if you've never fallen while riding a bike, how could you know how to not fall. It's something like that. So instead of digging in the past and regretting and thinking what I could have done different, you should shift your focus on what you learn from that mistake and what you can do in the future from that mistake. The next thing is accept what happened and that you can change and it made you stronger, because that's the truth. You can't go back in time and change it, but you can change the future. You can change the now. You can cry months and months on end that you didn't start, for example, your fitness journey earlier. But instead of focusing on the past, you could start now. And in a year, you will look different. You will feel different. You'll be more healthy. So focus on right now and focus for the future. The next point is we shift our focus from the bad thing to good things. For example, we take a lot of the time things for granted, and just look around yourself and say 10 things that you're thankful for, and you'll realize that there is a lot of things to be happy about. The next point is try to focus in the present. If you can sit down, relax your whole body. If you can't, then just focus on the present. Try to relax every muscle and look around. For example, if you're outside, look around and analyze what is happening around you and take slow, deep breaths. Or if you're at home, just take a moment to be in the present. Just look around and look at all the little details that you usually miss while you're worrying about the past and the future and everything else. At least that's what I did, and it got me out of the hole I was in. It's not like the best cure in the world, but it's definitely a good coping mechanism. But it is really important when you realize that you're thinking about the sad, the bad things, not to ignore, but to analyze how exactly you feel. That is really important because you have to understand why you feel this way. And there is nothing you could have done, no matter what happened to you. There is nothing you could have done at that point of your life because you haven't made enough mistakes to know better. But now you have, and now you know better. And that's what matters. It matters that because of your mistakes, you're a better person, smarter, stronger, and your past is in the past. It's gone. It can't hurt you anymore. And the future is bright. There is always hope, no matter what is the situation. Also, a good thing that you should consider, and something I did, is that I also cut junk food, sad music, true crime videos, and movies. I cut everything out of my life that made me feel these sad emotions, this anxiety, this anger, but I cut them temporarily. And when I actually felt better, I started incorporating them back in moderation. So, for example, 30% is the considered bad stuff, and 70% was eating healthy, focusing on what's happening right now, and focusing on my life and on my grades, and eating healthy, being a better person, reading, making art, all of that. And in moderation, there's nothing bad about listening to sad music every now and then. Everybody feels like it. And also, a really, really, really good thing. The less screen time you have, the happier you will feel. You can't be scrolling on TikTok for 12 hours and feel good. You're numbing your brain. You're brain rotting. Instead, read a book. I know how it sounds. Of course, TikTok is more entertaining, but actually, it's hard to start. But when you start a really interesting book, sometimes you just can't put it down. So just try new things that will actually benefit you. Also, going outside is mandatory. Yeah, you can't be sitting at home all day. I know how much you want it, but just go outside and sit on a bench next to your house or apartment. I know when you're depressed, you don't want to go outside, but force yourself to go outside and make it something that you do every day or almost every day, because that helps a lot. Healing from depression is hard. It's not linear. You have ups and downs. Sometimes you feel better, sometimes you feel worse. But basically, you have to force your brain to stop indulging in being sad and going over and over and over and over again on the same place. I know how hard it is because I've been there and I'm also there kind of now. But I managed to pull myself together then, and I know that the bad thing happened to me, but I know I can pull myself back out of that hole again. Because I did it once, I can do it again. Just give yourself grace, give yourself time, give yourself a break, because your brain has been used to being sad almost all of the time, and that's how it feels comfortable, because it gets used to that. Again, give yourself grace. Nobody was born taught how to live life. Our mistakes are what teaches us. Don't do the irreversible. You matter, you will be missed. It's not what you want, it's just your brain being confused. Everything can be fixed. It's never too late.